So yesterday I filmed a whole video about why you should modify your frame. As a segue from everything that we've done so far, it's pretty much unusable.
You can't be serious, man.
No, I'm totally serious.
Cannot be serious!
So we're just gonna start over. Your racket specs are like your thumbprint, or at least they should be, okay? How you hit the ball best, that's completely unique to you. Unique to you and likely only you. And so far in 7 videos we've done so far, well, we've talked about swing weight, twist weight, recoil weight, MGRI. And what you probably have gotten so far is that where exactly each bit of weight, like weight that's underneath the handle here, and here on the sides, and here underneath the bumper, and weight here, or here that's underneath this grommet, all of that matters in a different way, and the weight that's in here, they're all related. So the first 7 videos were all about getting this out of the way. I consider this kind of like a PSA that I did. This is stuff that no one wants to talk about. Reading articles and books is one thing, and like describing these things in layman's terms is one thing. That's just regurgitating information. Doing mathematical calculations and using formulas is another. That's kind of a greater step. Just thinking about swing weight as its inertia, and then using the mathematical formulas to what you are using is another thing. It's basically just physics on the back of a cereal box. That's what these first 7 or however many of those videos are. These 7 videos had one little extra kind of thing. They all had a little bit of crazy. And you, the person watching this, each individual person, you gave me your time to hear what I had to say about this stuff. Even though the whole time I was just scratching the surface. Some people are really blown away by this stuff, but so far we really only scratched the surface. It's time that we stepped out of just words on paper and formulas. And we really looked at this from the actual player's perspective. Let me put it this way. Novak Djokovic, #1 in the world, just been dominating the tour right now, 11 majors. He specifically has his rackets measured to a specific spec. He has his rackets all following a specific spec, and it's been this way for years. And he specifically pays well over $40,000 a year to make sure that all of the rackets he gets in the year, which could be, I think it's somewhere close to 60, maybe 70 or 80 different rackets in a year, to make sure that they're all not only strung the same or the way he wants them to be strung for the tournament or whatever, but they all have the exact same amount of weight in total rackets. Not just, oh, I have 4 lead strips that are all the same length on this racket and 4 lead strips all the same length on that racket. All of the rackets are as close to identical as possible. So does Roger, so does Rafael Nadal, so does Stanislas Wawrinka, so does Andy Murray. All of these guys, all of them have this very, very important thing done to their racket, that they're all matched. Now, some of them do tweak their specs, and some of them do this, and some of them do that, and they all have different end values. But the underlying key factor is that all of the best players in the world make sure that their rackets are set up the way they want them to be set up. Those specs aren't random. They didn't just fall out of the sky. They didn't just magically appear on the racket. They didn't just randomly start adding weight to the racket until they came up with something. Each of them has a specific set of stats, and each of them has a specific set of skills and goals to do on the court. Nadal, what does he try to do? He tries to hit a lot of forehands with a lot of topspin. Try and hit more topspin than anyone else because it gives him more margin, gives him more time for recovery, gives him more explosiveness off the court, so it makes his ball more difficult to time and therefore more difficult to attack. Roger, something a little bit different. Djokovic, a little bit different. they're all doing something specific on the court. And that's really what I want to highlight here. If you want to play your best tennis, you need to find your own specs. Not Roger specs, not Novak specs, not Nadal specs. Even though you could absolutely try any one of those and see what they're using to get them the effects that they have on the court, you need to find your own. You need to be able to look at this stuff, and understand what that means when you actually play and what that actually can do for you. The thing that we understand about rackets comes through a filter. And that filter is one that's trying to get you to buy things. So instead of telling you and explaining to you how the very specific numbers affect the racket, tell you how the racket affects the ball and how it affects your play. They like to take this part out as much as possible. A very specific demographic on the internet likes to say that modifying your rackets to be all the same and have specific specifications and chasing after these numbers is a waste of your time. I disagree completely. One argument that I hear a lot from these people, I'm just gonna call them these people. One thing I hear a lot is that we're not capable of using Pro Spec. First of all, that's not true. This racket, a Dunlop Max Ply, Old Woody, a lot of rackets had very similar specs. This is a 13+ ounce racket with a 380 swing weight or more. This one happens to be 380, and it is a hefty stick. Men used it, so both professionals and recreational players. Women used it, both professionals and recreational players. Children used it. No one had a problem with that because that's just how it was. When graphite rackets came out, everything got lighter, and manufacturers realized they could get more people willing to play tennis, more people feeling they could play better because the rackets were so much lighter. The differences between a modified racket or a Pro Spec racket and a stock racket is less than the difference between the average Pro Spec racket and the average wooden racket. Yet, all those people didn't have a problem playing with these rackets. They did have limitations, and that was largely based off their string bed and the head size. And yes, they were a little bit unmaneuverable, but there's actually some interesting specs specifically found in wooden rackets. We'll get to that eventually. But they like to use that as this kind of counter argument as to why you can't ever use more than a 320 swing weight, because racket head speed is everything. This is generally what I've seen from the people that I've worked with and my own experience playing tennis. Your skill level just kind of X on. So your difficulty in who you can play and the quality of shot and everything all together, what you can do, what you can form on the court, what you can handle on the court, that starts to go up very slowly. And eventually, as you progress in your skill level, the difficulty goes up. Eventually though, pretty much everybody starts to plateau. Everyone who's plateauing here is usually a recreational player. So this could start when you're 60, this could start when you're 15, this could start when you're 3, this could start when you're 27. It doesn't really matter. Eventually, players start to plateau. This is really the period where marketing and retailers targets, because you're not really developing as a player. You're not seeing these huge improvements because here you're learning how to hit topspin. You're learning how to use slices effectively. You're learning when to play what shot. You're developing your game. Here is where you're not seeing a huge improvement. So marketing tries to target you and say, hey, graphene gives you extra power. So you're like, oh, maybe I'm going to improve like this. And sometimes, every once in a while, you do improve like that. But in general, you don't see a massive improvement. It's when you're hit here, or even here. You can use better racket specification and better racket modification to get you to a higher level. You can go like this. It's not just having a different spec, it's learning how to use it. And that can be rather difficult. It takes time to adjust to these swing weight changes. It takes time to adjust the inertial changes so you can rethink how you can handle the ball. Instead of trying to use max racket head speed to handle your opponent's heavy shot, with a properly weighted racket, you can basically just bunt it back and you will get it deep. And suddenly that player who's been pounding you on the back feels like they can't get a shot past you, and they start going for more, and then they start missing. That's the kind of thing that racket modification can really do for you. It opens up your options. And that's really what I want to talk about. That's why I want to talk about Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer. How do they use these enhanced racket specs to enhance their game? Because it's not just a racket and skill. They're connected. They're connected because it's physics. What the ball does, the ball has kinetic energy, your racket has kinetic energy, but there's also an exchange of momentum. And that's something a lot of the internet geniuses out there like to forget, because momentum is mass and velocity, not just racket head speed. It's not just ball speed. It's everything together that will decide what you can and can't do with the ball. Yes, a better player might be able to get away with a little bit more, and that's what I want to help everyone achieve. Because for me, I was here, and then once I figured out that if I bumped my swing weight up, my skill level went up because I was hitting more spin with more power and thusly had more consistency. I had more aggressive shots and more consistency, and then the next level was I was able to handle more pace and more power coming into me more easily. It was amazing. It was like everything that this racket never gave me suddenly came in when I added a little bit, like 25 cents worth of lead tape. And that's the beauty of this. That's the magic. That's what I want to share with you, and that's why I'm so passionate about this. So 300 subscribers, we're almost there. We have 4 more. That's amazing. I really want to take this channel up to the next level, and that means not just reviewing equipment in relation to swing weight and twist weight and recoil weight and all that stuff, but reviewing how players play and how their racket fits into their game, so you have a better idea of how you can use this little thing called lead tape to help you become a better player. Not to give you instant free power. There's no such thing. That's not how physics works. To use the laws of physics, what we understand about the rackets, to use what we understand about physics and translate that into what you're doing on the court.
It was the wrong side.
The ball chalk came up all over.
No, it was a bit of a spread, Mr. McEnroe. That was a good call.
Excuse me?
That was a bit of a spread.
Look, you can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious! That ball was on the line. Chalk flew up. It was clearly in. How can you possibly call that out? He's walking over. Everyone knows it's in this whole stadium, and you call it out? You guys are the absolute pits of the world, you know that?
I'm going to award a point against you, Mr. McEnroe.